There are vegetables that are not afraid of winter, that you do not have to collect before winter and you can use them during the cold months. There are also those that can withstand mild frosts down to -5 degrees Celsius, but there are also those that absolutely must be collected before the frost sets in. Vegetables completely frost resistant. Kale. It is completely frost resistant, hibernates in the ground, produces crops even in winter, but unfortunately it is only a 2-year plant. Onions, 7-year-old, pearl and multi-story. These varieties winter in the ground for many years, but do not yield in winter. There are also bulbs of winter varieties, i.e. those that we plant in winter and will start to develop in spring, e.g. Christine, Rosca, Spirit, Wenta, Zytosca, Albion, Bela, Clipper, Corona. On the other hand, varieties of bulbs not intended for winter cultivation usually die if the temperature drops below 2 degrees Celsius. Shallots are also completely frost resistant and can be cultivated for many years, but give a good yield as a 2-year crop. Horseradish. Despite the fact that its leaves are damaged by frost, it is a frost-resistant perennial and its root hibernates in the ground, does not develop in winter, but in spring it springs new leaves and the roots begin to grow. Garlic. It is completely frost-resistant, does not develop in winter, but hibernates in the ground and begins to grow in spring. Planted in the fall and not in the spring, it yields much better, the heads are fuller and larger. See? Bream. It is completely frost-resistant and hibernates in the ground, however, the leaves are collected before winter, and the ground on which it grows should be mulched. Leek. There are varieties that winter in the ground, e.g. Arkansas, Bartak, Blizzard. Then, for the second year, they produce seeds. In general, leek withstands temperature drops down to -15 degrees Celsius. Rhubarb. It is completely frost resistant, it is a perennial plant. The leaves die during the winter, but the rhizomes remain in the ground. It puts out new ones in the spring. Scorzonera. Completely frost resistant. It does not yield in winter but will survive when sown in August. It is a biennial plant. Lettuce. Winter varieties are Laredo, Nansna, Reskia. However, the remaining majority of lettuces will withstand frosts down to -6 degrees Celsius. Lettuces should be covered with EG straw for the winter. Lamb's lettuceal. Although it looks delicate, it is completely frost resistant and even yields and develops in winter. The rocket lettuce withstands frosts down to -10 degrees Celsius. In my garden, once sown arugula, left on a flower bed, has survived for many years. It is a perennial and very hardy plant, it sows itself. Komatsuna, Sinise cabbage. It will withstand frosts down to -10 degrees Celsius. Lettuce chicory withstands up to -10 degrees Celsius and is a biennial plant. Sorrel and chives. They do not yield in winter, but overwinter in the ground. They are perennial, frost-resistant vegetables. They will sprout young leaves again in the spring. Asparagus, a perennial vegetable that hibernates in the ground. In winter, it is not collected. Only in the spring his young shoots. Spinach. It dies at -6 degrees Celsius, but its seeds can be sown in late autumn and will overwinter until spring. The spinach covered in agrotextile will survive the winter and we can nibble at its leaves. Root vegetables are slightly less hardy. Celery, parsley, swede, carrot, and beetroot. They are all biennial plants. As long as they do not rot from too much water in the thaw, they will survive the winter and produce seeds in the second year. So we can safely leave them in the ground if we want to use them on a regular basis. Then it is worth covering them with EG straw. Parsley in particular, yields every year in mild winters. Although some vegetables are biennial, they are grown as annuals because in the second year they produce seeds and are unpalatable. They can be stringy or bitter, e.g. celery and kohlrabi. Leaf beetroot will also withstand frosts down to -5 degrees Celsius. Broad bean. Withstands frosts down to -6 degrees Celsius. If the temperature is too low, it stops developing but rarely dies from frosts. Similarly with peas, it grows best when the spring is cool and wet. It can withstand a temperature drop to -6 degrees C. Kohlrabi, withstands temperatures down to -5 degrees Celsius, is a biennial plant. Cabbages, white, red and Italian. Large specimens can withstand up to -10 degrees Celsius. It may happen that when it is overgrown, it becomes bitter in taste. Chinese cabbage can withstand up to -5 degrees Celsius. On the other hand, Brussels sprouts are completely frost resistant, and even gains in taste. After freezing, the bitterness disappears. You can harvest it all winter long. Turnips and radish. They can withstand up to -5 degrees Celsius. It is worth covering them with a fleece or keeping them in a greenhouse. Chard, like artichoke, is a perennial plant that is resistant to frost. It is worth covering it with straw for the winter. There is no harvest in winter, but they will recover in the spring. Peruvian, Brazilian raisin, and Tomatillo withstand frosts down to -3 degrees Celsius and is a perennial plant, but for safety it is better to overwinter it at home. Jerusalem artichoke. It is a perennial plant that is completely frost resistant. The upper part dies down for the winter, but the tubers hibernate in the ground and spawn in the spring.